The two, and it's all about Nico Williams in the Catalan press right now. And the reason that they have been so heavily linked with Nico Williams, on top of all the other things, is that because their own president, Joan Laporta, did say that they could afford to sign him, which hasn't gone down too well in some parts, it's fair to say. We must get Samuel Marsden in now to talk more about this. Julien Laurent is still with us. So, Sam, tell us all about it. Can this happen? Can Nico Williams be a Barcelona player sooner than maybe we'd have thought?
Barcelona certainly think it can happen. Like you say, you've alluded to those comments from Joan Laporta there last week saying we can afford Nico Williams, or a player of Nico Williams, sort of, you know, the cost that's going to take to sign him. He's got a 58 million release clause in his contract with the Athletic Club. He was going to be free this summer. He only renewed last December. With that clause, obviously, is the terms to Athletic. And we've even heard Javier Tebas, who's often had sort of slightly more discouraging and realistic discourse towards Barca and their financial situation. We've even heard him say this week, the La Liga president, that Barca are close to sort of getting back to a situation where they are able to perhaps invest in someone of Nico Williams's cost, that 58 million. So we're still waiting on a few things. There's still going to have to be perhaps exits. There's still going to have to be some sort of, you know, revenue raising going on. There's still talk of this new Nike deal where Nike will pay sort of an upfront fee as well. They still need to get the 40 million for Barca Studios, Barca Vision, Barca Media, which keeps changing its name, which never arrived, and which does, when it does arrive, will sort of increase how much they can spend again. So what we can say is there is complete confidence from the club, and we've obviously heard from the players while they've been with Spain, though, Lamine Yamal, Pedri, Fermin Lopez, Ferran Torres, they've all spoken about what a great player is and how much they would love to have him at Barcelona. So it's going to come down to if they can get the money and if they can raise it. But there's complete confidence that they can get it done. There's a little bit more sort of caution from the players' side. They don't want to sort of overcommit, knowing Barca's situation we've seen in the past summers where they've signed players and then they have eventually registered them, but they've been waiting until right up until the final sort of minute of the window, if not the first game of the season, to get them registered. So there's a little bit of caution on the player side. And Athletic's stance is obviously very clear. We've seen them negotiate, well, not negotiate, should I say, down the years with their players. It will be clause or nothing.
Jules, any side would be happy to be welcoming Nico Williams to the ranks right now.
Oh, absolutely, and especially when we've seen with Sam as well, we were in Germany together, the so close relationship between Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, the two best friends, the two brothers, that kind of brotherhood thing. They would love to play together as well at club level. You've seen the understanding that they have on the pitch. We saw that in the final for Lamine assisting Nico on that first Spanish goal. So if you're Barcelona, you do everything you can to make this happen. If you're Nico Williams, you're very happy at Athletic Club de Bilbao. This is your hometown, this is your home club. You're very well paid because it's quite known that Athletic Club play their player really well. But Barcelona is still another level, to be fair. So I could easily see why he would want to join Lamine Yamal in Barcelona.
Obviously, Sam, any player would be happy to welcome him, as we've just been talking about. But will this cause a bit of disruption in the fact that if there's money available there for him, what about some of the players who are trying to get their own contracts dealt with right now, players who are already at Barcelona?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have a knock-on effect in some ways. Obviously, there's guys, like you say, well, there's guys that are not even at Barcelona anymore because their contract expired, like Sergio Roberto, who's sort of not renewed, and he's sort of been promised that, you know, we will renew you when we can kind of thing. So it's not going to sort of sit well with him, perhaps, when he's sort of waiting on Barca to see if he can, where he's going to play next season, and then he sees Joan Laporta saying we can afford this 58 million euro player. It'll also have knock-on effects with other players, perhaps, you know, with João Felix coming back. You know, Laporta and Barca have spoken openly about wanting to bring him back. But if you sign Nico Williams, you've got Lamine Yamal, do you still want to bring João Felix back? Obviously, then there's also the situation with Vitor Roque, obviously more of a central striker, but how he fits in with those two guys, and also Rafinha as well, who's been very clear about wanting to stay, but he's obviously been playing on the left. You've also got Ferran Torres on the right, so there's a lot of bodies for not very many positions if Nico Williams comes in. And it's quite sort of, it's funny how it sort of changed really Barca's sort of priority. They're sort of making Nico Williams their number one target this summer when, you know, over the last year, obviously there's been a change of manager, but with Xavi it was very clear what they need is someone at the base of the midfield, because they've got very good midfielders, very young midfielders, apart from Gundogan, but they don't really have anyone. Xavi spoke about the lack of balance. They still need that midfielder. So to then have this money and to go and spend it on Nico when perhaps you could make it work with, you know, Rafinha, Ferran and whatnot is also interesting. And yeah, it's gonna, I don't think it's going to cause any problems with the squad, but it's certainly an interesting change of tactic this summer.
So before we move on to another player that is heavily linked as well, what would you put as the likelihood of Nico Williams to Barcelona happening this summer, Sam?
Very likely at the moment. From everything. I mean, if you're taking it from just what's coming out of the club, then you're putting it up towards sort of 80 or 90%. So if you turn it down for a little bit of realism, let's say sort of maybe like 60, 65% chance of it happening at the moment. Obviously, it's still dependent on, like we say, on certain sort of financial things falling into place for Barca, but they're putting all their eggs in the Nico basket this summer. That's the one they want to sell. Obviously, we've got Mbappe coming to Real Madrid to join Vinicius, Bellingham, Rodrigo, etc. And obviously, Nico's not on the level of Mbappe, but he's a signing that does excite fans. We've seen during the Euros how much sort of people would love to see him at Barcelona. Jules spoke about the collection with Lamine Yamal, what they did in the Euros, winning the Euros with Spain. To have those two on the wings would certainly sell some excitement ahead of the new season.
Another player for Spain who really impressed during the Euros then, Sam, was Dani Olmo, and apparently he's said to his people that they know where he wants to go next. He is also being heavily linked with Barcelona. So what more can you tell us about this situation?
It's a strange one because obviously we're seeing him linked with Barcelona as well, and we've just spoken about the need for a deeper midfielder as well. So you can't imagine a situation, even though we don't have this information, but in Mundo Deportivo today they said Joan Laporta has told Sporting Director Deco go out and get Olmo and Nico Williams. It's a strange one, A, because of the finances we've spoken about, but B, because of the priorities they have elsewhere. From the Dani Olmo camp, we spoke to them ahead of the Euros final, because there was a story which they confirmed that his release clause, his 60 million release clause, has been extended until July the 20th, so it's that, a couple of days away. But they sort of took away importance from that release clause. They said there's an understanding with Leipzig, given the way he renewed his contract, when he could have perhaps gone for a smaller fee before, that Leipzig accepts that, on the back of his performances for them, on the back of his Euros, on the back of him sort of wanting to take that next step in his career, that, regardless of this clause expiring, if there is a deal to be done around 60 million, then they probably will do it this summer. And not just Barca, his camp haven't named the clubs, but they've said there's negotiations at various points with 3 or 4 clubs. I mean, Paris Saint-Germain have been mentioned. I don't know if Jules has anything there. Bayern Munich as well, and obviously Premier League sides. But I mean, I would say, yes, 95% that Dani Olmo leaves Leipzig this summer. I don't get the impression he's got a camp here in Terrassa, just outside of Barcelona, that he was there yesterday and he was speaking. And just reading between the lines, I didn't get the impression that anything was imminent with Barcelona, but certainly that he's going to leave Leipzig this summer.
Well, we are talking about lovely attacking options there for Barcelona. We must talk about the defence and what's going to happen without Ronald Araujo, now that he's got the injury, now that it's expected to be 4 months that he's out. What will Barcelona do in defence as the season comes, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, Araujo's a big loss just because of the type of defender he is. The way he was able to cover, his strength as well. If you look at some of the other players, they're slightly more sort of ball playing. But Barca are quite well covered in defence without Araujo. They've obviously got Pau Cubarsí, who has come onto the scene since January. He's obviously only young, but he's probably going to be the regular start. He's away at the Olympics for now, but he'll be back for the start of the season. Then, as you see from the list, you've got Inigo Martinez, whose futures perhaps was a little bit doubtful, perhaps with this Araujo injury, perhaps to stay around. Now, you've also got Andreas Christensen and Jules Koundé. I mean, 2 from 3 of Christensen, Koundé and Cubarsí is going to be a good partnership. You've also got a young guy called Mika Faye from the B team, who's training with the first team in pre-season. He's been sort of linked with Porto and a few other clubs. He's also pushing to be involved with the first team. Perhaps this Araujo injury could open the door for him. We still expect Eric Garcia to probably go out back to Girona on loan. And like I say, they're quite well stocked in defence. So even though you do lose a lot with Araujo, because none of those other players have those sort of physical qualities that he has. And, if you look at, I guess Koundé does a little bit, but Koundé had some tough games at centre-back last season and was moved out to right-back, so we'll see. But yeah, that was a big loss, but Barca are well covered there. I don't think we will see them sort of need to go to the market in that sense.